They say trust doesn't die all at once. It bleeds out slowly, one cut at a time. For me, it started on a random Thursday night, the kind of night where nothing feels special, and yet everything quietly shifts beneath your feet. I was sitting at the kitchen table, eating leftovers straight from the Tupperware container, scrolling through emails on my phone. I was exhausted mentally, emotionally, and the kind of physically tired that comes from staring at screens and smiling through meetings all day. Lauren had told me she'd be out at yoga with the girls that evening, something she'd started doing more frequently. I need it, she said the last time. Stress relief. I didn't argue. Honestly, I was glad she was taking care of herself. We'd both been off lately, distant, like two people passing through the same house but not really seeing each other. So I figured maybe yoga, wine with friends, laughter, maybe all of that would help her reset. I was clearing notifications off my phone when I opened our banking app. I wasn't even looking for anything, just checking to make sure the cable bill had gone through. But then I saw it, a hotel charge, downtown. Not a chain either, one of those boutique places with valet parking and mood lighting and rooftop cocktails. I stared at the screen for longer than I probably should have. The timestamp said 9:43 p.m. Lauren told me she had class at 7:30. The studio was 20 minutes from the hotel, in the opposite direction. My stomach sank in that way it does when your brain is processing a fact your heart doesn't want to accept. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she met up with the girls for drinks afterward? Maybe she booked a night for one of her friends? Maybe it was fraud? Except I knew it wasn't. The charge had Lauren's name, and it came from our joint card. No errors. No excuses. I thought about texting her right then and there but didn't. I put the phone down, stood up, and walked around the kitchen like pacing would somehow loosen the knot in my chest. She came home around 10:30. She looked like she had just stepped out of a boutique yoga ad. Messy bun, light makeup smudged from sweat, athletic wear, water bottle in hand. She was glowing, and if I didn't know any better, I would have believed every bit of it. "Hey, babe," she said, tossing her keys in the bowl near the door. "You look wiped." I nodded, forcing a tired smile. "Yeah, long day. How was yoga?" "Oh my God, so good," she said, stretching her arms overhead. "Deep flow. My legs are jelly." She walked over, kissed the top of my head, and breezed into the bathroom. I stared at the spot she'd just been standing in, trying to connect her words to what I'd seen on the bank statement. It didn't add up. Still, I didn't say anything that night. I told myself it wasn't enough, that I shouldn't jump to conclusions over one weird charge. But once doubt creeps in, it doesn't leave. It just waits for the next thing. And that came 3 days later. I was doing laundry, mine, hers, a mixed load of workout clothes and office blouses. And when I picked up the clothes that had fallen behind the hamper, I found a bracelet. It was silver, thin, a little bent. I'd never seen it before. Lauren didn't usually wear bracelets, especially not ones with engraved club logos on the inside. That's what got me. Not the jewelry itself, but the mark. A club downtown that I had never heard of but, after a quick Google search, I found out was known for its live DJs, private booths, and bottle service clientele. I brought it up over dinner that night. I wasn't even accusatory. "Hey, I found a bracelet in the laundry. This yours?" She glanced at it, gave a quick laugh, and shook her head. "Oh my God, no. That must have fallen out of Amanda's bag. She came over after yoga. Remember? We changed clothes." I blinked. "I don't remember Amanda being here." "You were probably in your office," she said quickly. "We were just chatting for a bit before she Ubered home." Felt plausible. Kind of. Except we both knew I would have noticed another person in the house. The hallway creaks when you walk on it. The door to the guest bathroom sticks. But I didn't press. I let it go even though something inside me told me not to. That's how it always goes, right? You gaslight yourself before they even have to. Then the toothbrush showed up. It was about a week later. I had just finished brushing my teeth before bed when I saw it, tucked neatly next to mine in the ceramic holder we'd had since our wedding registry. A second toothbrush. Blue. Not the color Lauren used. Not a backup. Just there. "Hey," I called out to her from the bathroom, trying to keep my voice even. Did you buy a new toothbrush? She appeared in the doorway a moment later, wearing one of her oversized tees and acting like she was already half asleep. When she saw what I was pointing at, her eyes flicked to mine and narrowed ever so slightly. Oh, that? She said, like it was nothing. I got it for guests. I blinked. What guests? She sighed, arms crossing. Andrew, why are you acting so weird lately? I bought an extra toothbrush. It's not a federal crime. We haven't had anyone stay over in months, I said. And it's in our holder. Why wouldn't you put it in the drawer or the guest bathroom? Her tone flipped like a switch. Are you serious right now? You're interrogating me over a toothbrush? I'm not interrogating. Yes, you are, she snapped. You're being paranoid. What's next, Andrew? Are you going to start checking my phone? Installing trackers? Jesus. Her voice was sharp, but what cut deeper was the disgust on her face. Like I'd become something beneath her. Like concern was weakness. I dropped it. Again. Not because I believed her, but because I wasn't ready to accept what it all meant. That same night, we went to dinner with her friends. We were out on the patio of this overpriced tapas place. One of those places where the chairs are too small and everyone pretends to like goat cheese. They were drinking sangria, laughing, catching up. I was quiet, just listening, trying to be part of the vibe. Then one of them brought up relationships. Something about therapy and communication, and Lauren, half drunk on wine, turned to them and said, "Oh, Andrew thinks I'm cheating on him because I have a toothbrush in the bathroom." They all laughed. I didn't. She turned back to me and said, loud enough for the whole table to hear, "You've gotten so intense lately. It's like living with a detective." I managed a tight smile, but inside, something cracked, because that wasn't just a joke. That was her planting a narrative. She was reframing the story before I even had a chance to tell it. Painting me as the unhinged husband, the paranoid guy with control issues, while she played the calm, collected woman who was just trying to live her life. That night, in bed, I couldn't sleep. I laid next to her while she breathed evenly, like none of it fazed her. I stared at the ceiling, letting all the pieces swirl in my head. The hotel charge, the bracelet, the toothbrush, the laughter at my expense. And I realized something terrifying. It wasn't just that she was hiding something. It was that she had already started rewriting the story. And I was the villain in it. After that dinner, something inside me shifted. I'd spent weeks brushing things off, playing mental gymnastics to excuse what didn't feel right. But now I wasn't just suspicious. I was alert, watching, listening, not because I wanted to catch her in something, but because I knew if I didn't, I'd lose myself in her narrative. I'd become the man she joked about, the man no one believed. And once I opened my eyes, I started seeing it everywhere. First came the calendar. We had always used a shared Google Calendar. It wasn't anything serious, just dinners with friends, doctor appointments, travel plans. A way to keep our lives aligned. I checked it one morning while sipping coffee and noticed something odd. Her events were gone. Every recurring yoga class, brunch date, nail appointment vanished. At first, I thought maybe the app was glitching. I refreshed. Still blank. Then I realized I'd been removed. I brought it up casually, trying not to sound accusatory. "Hey, weird question. Did we stop sharing calendars?" She was putting on mascara, half distracted. "Oh yeah, I turned it off. Got tired of the notifications. But now I can't see anything you've got going on." She shrugged. "I didn't think you needed to. It's just work and workouts. Still, we always. It's not a big deal, Andrew. Do you want me to send you a paper itinerary or something?" She said, voice coated in sarcasm. I let it go. Again. But I made a mental note. Because the woman who once texted me her lunch plans for fun now didn't want me knowing where she was. That wasn't just a setting change, that was intentional. Then came her phone. It had always been around. Not guarded. Sometimes face up on the couch, buzzing with group texts about reality shows and brunch spots. But now, it was always face down. Always. Every time she sat at the table, her phone landed screen first like clockwork. She stopped using fingerprint unlock and switched to a passcode. Changed that passcode twice in a week. One night, I picked up her phone absent-mindedly. She'd left it on the coffee table while getting wine from the kitchen, and it immediately flashed. Face not recognized. Before I could set it down, she was back. "Looking for something?" she asked, voice clipped. "No, just moved it so it didn't fall." Her eyes lingered on mine like she was trying to decide whether to believe me or escalate it. Then she smiled, too controlled. "Careful. Wouldn't want to trigger your inner detective again." There it was, that same tone. That passive-aggressive dig. She wasn't just avoiding suspicion anymore. She was mocking the fact that I had any. She started going out more after that. Quick drinks with coworkers became a weekly thing. Then twice a week. Then more. She always came back with perfect excuses. Traffic. A flat tire. A coworker's birthday that ran late. But the stories didn't always align. One night she said she was at the wine bar with Danielle and Carly, but Danielle had posted an Instagram story from home. Fuzzy socks, glass of rose, a dog in her lap, alone. When I asked Lauren how Carly was doing, she said, "Oh, she didn't make it, just me and Danielle." I didn't correct her, just nodded. A few days later, I started noticing unfamiliar taxi receipts in our email. She'd changed her Uber account's email to her personal one, but she forgot to switch the receipts from the backup inbox we shared for utility bills. One from 12:38 a.m. Pickup from an address in a neighborhood we had no business in. A condo complex, Upper West Side. Drop off, our house. I clicked on the route. It wasn't anywhere near her usual bar or restaurant spots. Definitely nowhere Danielle or Carly lived. I copied the address and pasted it into Google Maps. Condos, mostly rentals, mostly short-term leases. A place you'd stay if you didn't want to be noticed. Later, I brought up the old ring she used to wear. "Did you leave your wedding band at the gym again?" I asked, hoping to play it casual. She didn't even flinch. "Yeah, took it off during cardio. Kept slipping." I raised an eyebrow. "You never wore it to the gym before." "Well, I do now. Is that a problem?" Her eyes locked on mine, not defensive, daring. "I was just asking," I said. "God, Andrew," she muttered, brushing past me. "Not everything is about you needing to feel secure." That one hurt, because that ring mattered to me. Not in the material sense, but in what it symbolized. And watching her shrug it off like a cheap accessory hit deeper than I expected. And then, the scent. It wasn't cologne. It wasn't one of those obvious, heavy-handed smells that hit you from across the room. It was subtle, sophisticated. A clean, masculine scent, faint enough that you'd only notice it if you were paying attention, or if you were desperately trying to. I smelled it in our bedroom one night. Not strong, just enough to feel foreign. She hadn't showered yet, said she was tired. Laid down on my side of the bed for a few minutes before getting up to undress. That's when I noticed it on the pillow. Not mine. Not hers. Someone else's scent clinging to the space where she had just rested her head. I didn't say anything. Instead, I began my own quiet routine. I started taking photos, timestamps of receipts, **TS of our calendar history, GPS locations from the taxi services. Nothing confrontational. Just facts. Evidence. I wasn't ready to act on it yet, but I knew something was coming. The final blow in this chapter came one weekend afternoon. She was in the shower and I walked past the laundry basket. A shirt was tossed over the edge. A blouse I hadn't seen before. Definitely not something she'd bought with me. I reached for it, and there it was again, that scent. Not perfume. Not detergent. Him. Next to it, a receipt from a boutique liquor store downtown, stuffed into her coat pocket. 2 mini bottles of champagne. A rose gold foil wrapper that looked more romantic than casual. She hadn't mentioned a celebration. There were no birthdays, no promotions, just champagne, a new blouse, and that scent that didn't belong in my home. I stood there for a long time holding that receipt. My hands were shaking, not from anger, but from the dawning realization that I had been living with someone who was slowly, methodically erasing the version of our life that I believed in. And she was doing it without hesitation, without remorse. She was replacing our history with a new one I wasn't invited to be part of. That night, when she got out of the shower and walked past me in a towel, she looked at me with this detached, effortless kind of calm. "What's wrong?" she asked, drying her hair. "Nothing," I said. "Just tired." She smiled faintly. "You should sleep more. You're starting to look worn." And that was it. No apology. No affection. Just an observation, like she was speaking to a colleague or a stranger on a train. I laid in bed for hours, staring at the ceiling again. Except this time, I wasn't just watching signs. I was waiting for confirmation, because somewhere in the mess of calendar deletions, late-night rides, silent phones, and champagne receipts, the truth wasn't just knocking anymore. It was already inside the house. Suspicion used to whisper. Now it screamed. By this point, it wasn't about gut feelings or misinterpreted glances. I wasn't guessing anymore. I was waiting for her to slip, waiting for the truth to finally cross the line from subtle to undeniable. It happened on a Thursday, cold, gray, and ordinary. One of those days where nothing special is supposed to happen. But those are always the days that change everything. I had just gotten home from work when I ran into our neighbor, Julia, in the elevator. We'd lived 2 doors down from her for years. Always polite, casual conversations in the hallway. Nothing deep. But this time, she looked at me like she had been holding something in. "Hey," she said cautiously, her voice low. "Is everything okay with you and Lauren?" The question came out of nowhere. I hesitated. "Why?" She looked uncomfortable. I wasn't sure if I should say anything, but I saw something. A few nights ago. My heart thumped hard in my chest, but I forced a calm expression. "What do you mean?" She glanced at the elevator camera. "I probably shouldn't get involved. But, look, if it were me, I'd want to know. I saw Lauren coming home really late. After midnight. She was with some guy. They were close. Close. They were holding each other. Kissing in the elevator. I mean, int asterisk mate. Definitely not just friends." I didn't say anything at first. I just stared at her, and I could tell she regretted saying it the moment it left her mouth. But it was already out. The words had lodged themselves in my brain like shards of glass. "You're sure it was her?" She nodded slowly. "Positive." I only hesitated because, well, she looked so confident, like she didn't care who saw her. The next day, Julia slipped a flash drive into my mailbox. Elevator footage. I watched it alone in my car. I couldn't bring myself to play it in the house. My hands trembled as I opened the file, and there it was, grainy but clear. Lauren, laughing with some guy I'd never seen before. Tall, well-dressed, tan coat. They stepped into the elevator together, arms around each other. Then her hand on his chest. A kiss. Not some clumsy drunken mistake. Not something stolen or impulsive. It was practiced. Int asterisk mate. Like this was just another night in a routine they both understood. The timestamp? 12:21 a.m. I pulled up the bank app again. There it was, another charge from that same boutique hotel. 12:07 a.m. That was the match I needed. The final puzzle piece. I had been building the picture in my head for weeks. But this was different. This wasn't a guess. This was evidence. She came home that evening like nothing had changed. She kissed me on the cheek, started taking off her boots, then asked if I wanted Thai or pizza for dinner. Just a normal night in a house that didn't feel like mine anymore. I didn't answer. I just watched her. And suddenly, I realized something strange. She didn't look guilty. Not even a flicker. Not nervous. Not defensive. Just practiced. Smooth. The performance was flawless. Later that week, I got the second blow. A friend of mine from college, Melissa, ran into Lauren at a rooftop bar in the city. Melissa wasn't someone Lauren knew well, and apparently Lauren didn't notice her. She messaged me out of the blue. "Hey, super awkward question. Was Lauren supposed to be at the Glass House Tuesday night?" She was there with some guy. Thought they were a couple at first. Seemed cozy. I stared at the message for what felt like an hour. It matched. Same night. Same man. I replied, "Thanks. No." She told me she was working late. Melissa just wrote back, "I'm so sorry, Andrew. You deserve better." That was the moment. The exact second I stopped doubting. Stopped making excuses. Stopped hoping she'd explain everything away with a clever lie and a half-smile. This wasn't me being paranoid. This wasn't stress. This wasn't a bad phase. It was betrayal. Real. Documented. Active. I sat on the floor of the guest room that night, laptop open, phone in hand, staring at the collection I had built. The bank statements, the **TS, the emails, the video footage, the text from Melissa. I had more than enough. But it wasn't just about proof anymore. It was about control. She had built this careful illusion where she was untouchable. Where I was the suspicious husband, the boring man she could roll her eyes at in front of her friends. The guy who didn't understand her anymore. But now, I had something stronger than rage. I had clarity. That night, I didn't sleep. I planned. I called an old acquaintance, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Her name was Natalie. We dated briefly before I met Lauren. Nothing ever happened romantically again, but we stayed friendly online. She'd always been sharp, calm, unafraid of confrontation, and more importantly, she knew how to read a room. I asked if she could help me with something. She didn't hesitate, so the next evening I came home not alone. Lauren was sitting on the couch in leggings and a hoodie, scrolling through her phone. The second the door opened and Natalie stepped in behind me, her entire posture changed. She stood up slowly, like the air had just shifted in the room and she wasn't sure why. "Who's this?" she asked, trying to keep her voice even. "Natalie," I said. "A friend. She's here to help me pack a few things. And to witness something." Lauren blinked. "Witness?" I dropped my bag onto the counter and pulled out a manila envelope. Bank records, photos, printouts, the flash drive. I set it all down in front of her without a word. She didn't move at first. Then, cautiously, she reached for the folder, flipped through the pages. The moment her eyes landed on the elevator stills, her lips parted, just slightly. But the mask didn't drop. "Not yet." "This is insane," she said, looking up. "You're stalking me now? Planting people to spy on me?" "I didn't need to plant anyone," I said calmly. "You were sloppy, and I stopped ignoring it." She looked at Natalie, then back at me. "This is pathetic. Bringing your little sidekick here to play detective?" Natalie didn't flinch. "I'm just here to make sure the truth doesn't get rewritten." Lauren laughed, short and sharp. "You think this makes you look strong, Andrew? It makes you look weak, obsessed, controlling." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "No. What makes me look weak is staying in a marriage where I'm disrespected daily while you sneak off to hotels with strangers. This is me taking back my self-respect." And that was the moment it cracked. Her eyes dropped, just for a second, just enough. Her mouth opened like she had a rebuttal ready, but no words came out. Not this time, because she knew the game was over. She wasn't going to charm her way out of this. Not with friends. Not with witnesses. Not with evidence staring her in the face. Natalie helped me pack some essential documents, passport, birth certificate, work stuff, and a few boxes of personal belongings. Lauren didn't say much after that. She sat down on the couch again, staring blankly at the wall. And for once, she didn't look powerful. She looked small, alone. When we left, she didn't stop me, didn't run after me, didn't say anything. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was being manipulated. I felt free. The truth was ugly, but it was mine now. And I wasn't going to let her twist it anymore. The car ride after I left with Natalie was quiet. So quiet. I could hear the weight in my chest shifting with every turn. I kept my eyes on the road, jaw clenched, heart still trying to catch up with what I'd just done. For the first time in years, I wasn't reacting, I was choosing. Natalie didn't speak much. She understood the moment didn't need conversation. Just presence. That meant more to me than I could say. We reached her place, a temporary stop until I could get into the short-term apartment I'd already arranged. She handed me a folder with blank paper and a checklist on top: housing, accounts, statements, passwords. No drama, just order. Breathe, she said simply, before heading to bed. I stood in her guest room with the light off, just staring out the window. Part of me kept expecting Lauren to call or show up or send some long message full of half-truths and last-ditch performances. But the phone stayed silent. That silence didn't feel like peace yet. Not exactly, but it felt like something close. The next morning, I returned to the house, alone. I didn't go in with shouting or confrontation. I went in with a list. She was sitting at the kitchen island with a cup of coffee, scrolling through her phone like it was just another day. That told me everything I needed to know. She still thought this was negotiable. That maybe I'd overreacted. That maybe she could spin the truth just enough to reshape it into something survivable. "Good morning," she said, guarded but trying to sound casual. "I'm taking the safe," I replied, walking past her. She blinked. "Excuse me? I'm taking the documents, the safe, the car keys, and my things from the office. Anything that was mine before the marriage is being secured." She stood up, her chair scraping back across the tile. "Andrew, can we just talk?" I looked at her, and for the first time she didn't look in control. She looked concerned. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't remorse. It was fear. And it was new. "You've had weeks, months to talk," I said. "This isn't a conversation anymore." She stepped closer. "You're really going to let Natalie drag you into this? You think she cares about you?" I laughed, not bitter, tired. "This isn't about Natalie. This is about me. Something I should have made it about a long time ago." "Andrew, please," she said, voice cracking. "It's not what you think. I know exactly what it is. Because I saw it. Because people saw it. Because it's not a theory anymore. It's documented. There's no saving this." Her face shifted: panic, anger, something in between. "So what now? You're just walking away? You're going to pretend like none of it mattered?" I paused at the door, keys in hand. "You already did." I left before she could answer. The next few days were a blur of logistics. I called the lawyer, opened a separate bank account, transferred funds that belonged solely to me, froze our joint credit cards, secured personal documents, changed all my passwords. My phone buzzed constantly, calls from Lauren, texts from mutual friends, even messages from her sister. Some of them urging me to talk, others feigning neutrality. But neutrality has no place in betrayal. There's no middle ground between loyalty and manipulation. I ignored them all. I didn't owe anyone my pain. I owed myself a way out. Then came the message from Lauren. "We need to talk. I made mistakes. But we don't have to end like this." Mistakes. That word again. Like she'd left the stove on or missed a dentist appointment. I didn't reply. Instead, I focused on building the case. The one she'd never see coming. Every charge. Every unexplained receipt. The GPS records. The photos. The video footage. I compiled it all into a clean, organized file. Every item dated. Every screenshot *T labeled. I wasn't going to scream. I was going to prove. When I met with my attorney, she flipped through the file slowly, nodding. "You're ahead of most," she said. "Most people come in with emotion. You came in with evidence." "Emotion got me here," I replied. "Proof will get me out." We began drafting the petition. Irreconcilable differences, documented infidelity, willful concealment of marital assets, public disparagement, all supported by physical and digital evidence. In parallel, I filed a change of address, rerouted my mail, updated my insurance beneficiaries, canceled joint subscriptions and memberships. It wasn't petty, it was tactical. Every tie that connected me to the version of Lauren I had loved needed to be cut cleanly. Word got around fast. Lauren tried to get ahead of it, posting vague Instagram stories about being misunderstood, about choosing peace, about healing journeys, all carefully filtered, all designed to make her look enlightened and me look bitter. But the people who mattered knew. Quietly, they started reaching out. A few of her friends, ones I hadn't expected, messaged me privately. I always thought something was off. She changed so much this year. I'm sorry, man. You deserved better. Funny how people find their voices after the damage is done. And Lauren? She wasn't done performing. She called one night, voice trembling. I let it go to voicemail. She left one message. I know I messed up, but please don't throw away everything we had. Panicked. I felt alone. It got out of hand. I was stupid. But you can't tell me this is how our story ends. I didn't respond, because it wasn't about whether she was sorry. It was about the fact that she knew what she was doing, and she did it anyway. The truth is, I don't think she believed I'd actually leave. She thought I'd yell, break something, go cold for a while, then cave. She thought she could gaslight me into staying. That the shame of being the man who got cheated on would keep me quiet. She didn't expect calm. She didn't expect silence. She didn't expect strategy. That was the turn she never saw coming. The day the papers were served, she texted me 3 words. Are you sure? I didn't answer. I didn't need to, because this wasn't revenge. This was the end of the performance. And I was finally done being her audience. There's a strange kind of clarity that comes after a storm. Not relief clarity. You look around at the wreckage and realize what was always weak, what couldn't withstand pressure, what should have been reinforced and never was. That was me, standing outside the courthouse the morning after Lauren was served. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel bitter. I felt ready, like the part of me that had been waiting in the background, too quiet, too accommodating, had finally taken the wheel. It was time to stop surviving this and start navigating it. The first order of business was securing the essentials. I already had a temporary place, short-term lease, month to month, quiet complex on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, just mine. I moved in over the weekend, armed with boxes, folders, and enough coffee to stay alert for 72 hours straight. The walls were blank, the furniture minimal, but it felt honest. It wasn't full of borrowed warmth or curated lies. No scattered jewelry, no forgotten heels near the door, no toothbrushes that didn't belong, just stillness. It was the first time in years the air didn't feel tense. But clarity, I learned, requires structure. So I made a list. Finances were step 1. I moved my direct deposit, froze our shared credit card, reported the separation to our financial institution and requested transaction logs for the past 12 months. I traced every charge that wasn't mine. Hotel rooms, bar tabs, boutique shops in neighborhoods she never visited before. I printed them, organized by date, cross-referenced with calendar deletions and rideshare receipts. Every hole in her story got filled in with hard numbers. I moved half the liquid savings, exactly what I could legally take under our state's interim separation rules, into a private account. Not a cent more. Not to be petty. Just to be protected. I met with my accountant. We discussed taxes, assets, investments, how best to avoid penalties while preparing for a financial uncoupling. Every dollar was labeled. No surprises. No emotion. This wasn't vengeance. This was safeguarding. Next was the legal front. My attorney, Michelle, was a machine. Sharp. Straight to the point. No coddling. That's why I hired her. I brought her everything. The elevator footage, the witness statements, the receipts, the text logs, the ***. TS. I even documented the moment Lauren mocked me in front of her friends. I transcribed it word for word from memory and timestamped the event with a synced dinner reservation. It wasn't about pettiness. It was about pattern. Michelle nodded as she reviewed everything. She can spin feelings, she said, but she can't spin facts. We filed under grounds of marital misconduct, specifically infidelity with evidence of financial misconduct and reputational harm. I don't want this to drag, I told her, but I'm not letting her rewrite history. She'll try, Michelle said, matter of fact. They always do, especially the ones who lie so well they forget where the truth ends. Witnesses were next. I didn't go public. I wasn't posting, ranting, or painting Lauren as some villain to anyone who'd listen. I chose a handful of people I trusted completely. Friends who had seen us at our worst. Colleagues who had met Lauren and knew the shift in my energy before I said a word. Neighbors who had noticed her late-night returns and the different car in the driveway on nights I was working late. I asked for statements, not gossip, just observations. Notes on things they'd noticed, no embellishments. I kept them all. Organized, digitized, time-stamped. One neighbor wrote, "I stopped walking my dog past their place at night. I didn't want to accidentally run into something awkward. It felt like something private was breaking in public." That sentence stuck with me, because that's exactly what betrayal feels like. Private devastation on display. Security came after. Lauren still had keys to the house. And while I was out now, I didn't want her accessing things she shouldn't. I changed every password. Removed her from the joint cloud account. Disconnected shared smart devices. Replaced the door lock at the old house and gave notice that she would no longer have my consent to enter without written permission. That part made me feel strange. Like I was securing myself against someone who once felt like home. But it was necessary, because trust isn't just about love. It's about access. And she had lost hers. Emotionally, I started untangling myself. Therapy helped. It wasn't about fixing me, it was about naming what had happened. Giving shape to things I'd swallowed. The silence, the gaslighting, the slow erosion of my identity under her words. My therapist said something in the first session I'll never forget. People like her don't just lie to get away with something.